and gentlemen, Shamrock Nation, we are fired up to be back with another episode of the House of Hammers. Myself, Aaron Babicz, co-host Christopher Okoye. We have a very special guest today. We'll introduce him in a minute, but the House of Hammers podcast is about positivity. It's about pouring into people. It's about picking yourself up when you're down, filling buckets when your bucket's emptied, and having someone else refill that bucket for you. So we talk a lot about engagement, love, getting out into the community and spreading that Shamrock love and our own love from within inside. And I know that Chris and I are huge proponents of love and action. So, Chris, anything exciting you did this weekend that you want to share with the people before we get started?
Just a great weekend with Shamrock Nation. Got to connect with some alums. So kind of holding down on the sideline.
Unbelievable.
He's doing some great things over at Spartan Wealth Management. So, looking forward to kind of connecting with them. I guess there's a couple Rice guys over there, so we got to go over there and show a little bit of muscle. So we'll see how that goes. But, man, things are going great, man. God is good, and, man, we're blessed and highly favored over here.
You know what we forgot to do, though? You didn't get to warm up your mic with your usual.
You say goodbye, and I say hello.
The first time we've gotten it on video. This is a historic moment.
I don't know why we say goodbye. I say hello.
That is sultry.
Yeah, he's like a 300-plus pound Barry White. Barry White was, well, you might not know who Barry White.
Black. I'm just kidding.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. I know who Barry White is.
It was cool to see Connor Holton there because unbeknownst to our ball boy, he had on Connor's jersey from his senior year with the David Wadzinski pack. So wow. Connor walked up to him and goes, "Hey, you know whose jersey that is?" He's like, "No." He's like, "That's mine. That's the jersey I wore." So I think he signed it for him at the game, which is pretty cool.
That's such a classic moment, man. That's just like one of those things that just makes this place so special, man.
It was a great moment. Little kid, and then the kid the guy that wore that jersey passing the torch on to him. It was a beautiful weekend.
Speaking of my jersey, I mean, I remember my jersey that I wore my senior year that meant a lot to me. You gave it to LB, so that was great.
I gave it to one of our Shamrock brothers. I gifted it to him, and I said, "This jersey comes from one of my favorite people ever here to wear it, Chris Okoye, number 51."
That's fair.
I gifted it to him. So
I want to frame that. So.
See? We'll steal it back from him. You're bigger than LB.
I'll last nicely.
Yes, in a Christian-like manner.
Oh, always.
The weekend was beautiful at our house. A nice little run of sickness with my 7-year-old who had a cough. My 10-year-old got his tonsils out, so we were in a hornet's nest at the Babicz house, but it was great. Had some great hockey games over the week. Obviously, the football team with the semifinal win on Saturday up at Jackson against East Kentwood. The boys look nice and strong, explosively fast, which leads us to our guest for the day. And like I said, Chris and I, we really love to bring fire breathers onto this podcast. And I know we've done probably about 7 of them now, and each one seems to get better and better. And we're really excited about today's guest. We were searching for a strength, wellness, conditioning component, a complement to everything we do already here at Catholic Central. And I feel like we found the best solution in the state of Michigan, probably one of the best, not probably, but the best solution in the Midwest, Ethos Performance. And our head strength coach here at Catholic Central, we've got some other guys that work with us here at Catholic Central. Dan Moses is the owner of Ethos Performance, former Remington Award winner, played at West Virginia. Zach Megacy is another one of our guys that works with our young men. Tons of junior hockey, great background, fire breather. But today's guest is our guy who probably sharpens more iron here on the Ethos staff than anyone. Takes pictures at our games. He shares his family with us. He shares his faith with us. He shares his intensity. Former wrestler at Colorado State University, a hometown guy from Holt, Michigan. We'll touch on where he coached previously in high school for a little bit after I call him out. But ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Mr. Corbin Boone. Corbin, welcome to the House of Hammers.
Thanks for having me on, guys. First and foremost, before we get going, just want to show a little token of gratitude, a little gift bag from Ethos.
Oh, man.
I know you guys are.
Gratitude,
Okay. Hats.
He knows the way to our hearts.
We got a blender bottle in here. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
And just to amend, I wrestled at Cleveland State.
Oh, excuse me.
Right acronym.
Cleveland State.
Isn't that HBCU?
Cleveland State?
No.
No.
Sadly, we
what
just
did
cut
I
our
say?
program. Colorado State?
Yeah.
Sadly, we just cut our program last year. We shortly after I graduated, they cut the program. We brought it back. The school voted for adding extra money towards credit hours, and it raised several $1 million to keep the program around. It was a huge effort to keep the program. They ended up cutting it anyway. So sad to hear. So
It's tough to see. You know, you see a lot of coaches, and obviously in the local area over the last couple of years, you've seen swim and dive programs, but wrestling is such, and a lot of schools that cut wrestling, you saw a public outcry on social media of how important that sport is, not only to the development of young men and young women now that girls wrestling, female wrestling is taken off so big. But so let's dive in a little bit. One thing that we do, and I want to touch on that, you know, coming from such a prideful program and one of the toughest sports there is, but we do this thing on the show called the 2-minute you, which I know for you to describe yourself in 2 minutes, probably not the easiest thing to do. If Chris, when we did it for your first one, I think we spent 20 minutes on ourselves, just loving ourselves, because we're our own biggest fans, like we always say.
You gotta be, man. You gotta keep the star player happy, right? You gotta keep the star player happy.
Exactly. Well, we have 5 stars in here now because we got Sean, as always, the man behind the boards, and then he's training Nick Hoban. So,
a star player of your own team.
Well, I mean, I'm my biggest fan. I love myself more than anybody.
I know, right? We always walk past the good old history of the athletic directors.
Kiss my picture.
I mean, you know.
I look good. I was a lot younger, no gray beard, no bags under my eyes, no glasses. You guys aged me here at CC. I don't know. It's not my wife. Make sure she hears that. Don't say allegedly. Don't say allegedly.
I was leaning into it.
Don't do it. I know you were. I saved you. I
was leaning into it. All right.
But Corbin, in 2 minutes or more, I don't care how long it takes, but tell us what makes you tick. Tell us who Corbin Boone is and the type of man who plants his feet in the morning and what you look forward to on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of where to start. Started wrestling very early on as a means to getting picked on in the playground. I was a porky little kid around, second, third grade. And my dad, being a basketball player his whole life, thought he had different plans for me. Then he saw me shoot a basketball and realized we were rerouting that direction very quickly. But, he worked with a lot of guys down at the correctional facility down in Jackson who all grew up wrestling. His best friend from high school was a wrestler, wrestled at Olivet College, and just saw it as an avenue for me to maybe take a different path. And it really changed my life. From a young age, from there, it got me through middle school, high school, ended up eventually wrestling at Cleveland State. From that moment, as I came back home, I got reached out by a friend of mine who I grew up lifting with, Tony Greathouse, who called me up one day and said, hey, come run a practice for me. And that's how I ended up down at Brighton and coached there for a couple of years, which then ended up leading me to my current profession as a strength and conditioning coach. It was something that I found a lot of love for in college. I had a great mentor and my strength coach in school that really kind of rekindled that flame. And I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And then that job at Brighton ended up leading to my current job as a strength and conditioning coach. And then here we are almost 10 years later, sitting in the halls of CC, doing what I love every single day. It's one of those things where every day I wake up and I get to do something that I love to do. And it's more than just writing programs and coaching kids, but it's seeing that direct impact and changing people's lives every day. And it may be something as simple as just setting the tone for their day to give them a great day ahead of them, or rounding off a day that is been a struggle. Or, I have a gentleman I work with who right now he works in the automotive industry, and it's not really great in that world, but he comes to me at the end of the day, and that's kind of the cherry on top that kind of just sets his day off. He gets to go home to his family. He says he's a better father, a better husband. He's more patient. And, that's really fulfilling to me, because it's more than just writing programs and running workouts. And, I try to take a little bit of that into this world of training high school kids and working with teams. I've been very blessed to be able to work with several teams, prior to coming to CC. And I learned very early on, and it was something that just kind of happened organically. I was invited to come to another team's football game. I just decided, hey, I'm going to come to all these games. This is fun. These kids love it. I can see that, they're lighting up when I'm here. I'm getting better results out of the weight room because they know that I'm there for them when it's their time to go. It's not just me just getting on them, yelling at them, being intense, but I get to see them through their high moments. And ever since then, it just has made sense, and that there's more to this than, someone coming in, paying for a workout, or someone coming in and paying for our services at Ethos to run their teams. But trying to invest more of my time into these kids outside of what they do is a really, really gratifying thing for me. And, it's one of those things that, at home, I wake up and I hear you say this often and it just like hits the nail on the head, but it's like you express your gratitude. It's like, thank you, God, for another day, getting what I get to do, um, having something in my life that's meaningful, something that I can, characterize and I can show my kids that is fruitful, and hopefully that they can see my example from that.
I love it.
So,
Chris and I talk a lot about the importance of strength coaches. I know he had some really good mentors. For me coming up, I really didn't have a strength coach at Hillsdale when I played. That we didn't have one at CC. We kind of ran our own workouts. So I really didn't get my first true strength coach. My dad sent me to a dojo on 7 Mile in Southfield when I was in high school to work out with one of his old karate buddies. That was like my first strength coach. I walk in, an old Geo tracker. You guys are all young. You don't remember the Geo tracker. Nick, you might remember it. Got firebombed outside of this place. My dad's like, Dad. I'm like, Dad, this car's on fire. He's like, go inside, train. I walk in and the guy's throwing Chinese stars against a wooden dummy. So like for me, that was my first introduction to strength coaches. Like I just thought they were all crazy. Now that I've gotten to know a lot of strength coaches, you guys are all a little bit on the crazy side. But
we're on brand.
there's no doubt about it. And when Corbin says that he's a fire breather in the weight room and cares about the kids, he also has to put up with the adults asking him questions. I blaze him with a ton of stuff. And Chris, you've been at a lot of different levels of athletics too. Talk a little bit about how important the strength coach experience has been for you, because you've seen it all from high school all the way up to the professional level.
I always tell people I think the strength coach is really kind of like who really runs a program, right? We're talking. I don't think people know all the strength coach does, right? They work as a parent, they work as a therapist, they give relationship advice, but they also help you get a lot bigger, stronger, and faster. And a really good strength coach is very like hands-on, the hands-on approach, whether it's, hey, you guys shouldn't be wearing pads today, or maybe you guys should take it easy on your jump shots. And just how much it builds you as a young man, right? I always talk about, the biggest life lesson learned from a strength coach is they teach you that life is a lot like progressive overload. You start off like really, really weak, but as you continue to get stronger week after week, you add a little bit more weight. And that's what God does to us. As we get stronger, as we can bench 135, then 225, and then life, your load just gets a bit bigger each week. But then also sometimes you have to deload, that those weeks or those times or those moments in your life where you need to just take a little time for yourself. You need to rest, recover. And strength coaches, for me, just kind of gives you the framework for life. There's not a strength coach I've ever had. Even me and Corbin, we've kicked it a couple times in the weight room. For me, I've just always kind of gotten really close to strength coaches. I just love learning. I love training. And it was always a conversation of, all right, kid, we can't get you, whether it was high school, college, NFL, USFL. The conversation was always, okay, we can't kick you out of here, but we can teach you how to effectively do an extra workout a day. And I just was able to just learn so much and cultivate so many different relationships, because a strength coach, they're there all day, right? I think once you get your hour lift in or your 2-hour session, you go home. They don't. They have to refuel, recharge for another group. And sometimes it's another sport, right? High school, college, you may have to do men's basketball, then women's basketball, but then soccer, so it's I don't think they get their flowers. So I'm here to just give you your flowers, right?
Thank
for
you.
all the work that you guys do, especially with new age, with the advancement of information. Gives the advancement of questions you can ask.
Yeah.
I saw this TikTok, or I saw this reel, or hey, I was looking on chat, and
Or I trained myself at Powerhouse Gym because I found a workout online from somebody who says they know what they're doing, which I've noticed a ton. Lately.
So it causes you to have to stay sharp. And so I guess that's a question I would love to ask you is, with the advancement of information and technology, and now people thinking that they have the certifications or degrees that you have, how do you stay sharp, where maybe you understand the implementation, but how do you deal with, or how do you stay sharp with always being ready to ask these loaded questions that are really being asked as a way to kind of prove you wrong, or to see if you, or to keep you on your toes? How do you handle that, and how do you stay on top of those things?
Yeah, really the biggest thing though is getting to the bottom of the root of what that question is, because a lot of times the person asking that question doesn't know if they're really asking the right question. So it's following up and trying to get to the root of, what is it that they're trying to get out of this answer, and then meeting that person where they're at. And, I'll be honest, with strength and conditioning, it's one of those things that it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It really doesn't.
Preach, brother.
It has something to do with effort and consistency. And when you put those things together, that's when you start having recipes for success. Now, the higher the level you go, the more detailed, the more intense, the more complicated things may get, just because you're dealing with higher level athletes with higher potentials. Injury rates are different. You're coming off of other things that may be affecting their training, like past injuries, or they're kids that are or athletes that are coming off of they're in like a return to sport phase that may be affecting what's going on. But nonetheless, it's trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to say, and then putting it together in a way that is going to be streamlined into a manner that can be executed the right way. Because with all this information out there, it's one of those things that, you have people who can take little bits here, little bits there, little bits here, little bits there, and then they compile it together and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. But it might be totally wrong. Your body operates in a specific manner that has to be addressed the right way. And it's one of those things where if I can at least lead an athlete to understanding, like, hey, look, this is how we are going to streamline this and make this organized and make this efficient. And for them to understand, like, if these are things that you want to do and they tie into the grand plan, that's fine, right? I want to give you a little bit of autonomy because I love that they're taking their own accountability, but let's do this in a way that's going to get you results and success. All right. So with all this information out there, a lot of times it's just more or less just making it organized for these athletes and these parents, and getting them to ask the right questions and getting them to understand, like, look, just because you see this today doesn't mean this is what we're going to be doing the whole time. And I've had that conversation time and time again with kids here. And it comes from a genuine place, but that say, hey, I know you're doing these things on your own outside of the weight room, but let's get a little bit more, organized with how we're doing this, so that way you have better results in here and outside of here. Your body stays healthy. We're not getting hurt, and then you can start to see these results stack up on top of each other. So a lot of it is it's managing that more than anything, because the information out there isn't bad, honestly. Like, and a lot of people who have any kind of experience or who have had any experience with somebody who has trained them professionally knows kind of what's BS and what's not, right? And a lot of times these kids come to me with valid things, and they're not that far off the mark, but let's just make sure we're doing this at the right time, the right place. Let's organize this and make sure we're meeting you at the right place right now.
That goes into one of my favorite things to talk about. Obviously, we live in a world of $30 sessions, right? Mm-hmm. Pull up, get some work, give me $30, adios amigos. Can you touch on or really speak on the importance of phasing, like phase 1, phase 2, and then like peaking? Because I feel as though, and I want both of you guys' perspectives, with people overtraining or having inconsistent training or hopping around from trainer to trainer, I think that was one thing I struggle with at the professional level, and then a lot of guys struggle with is, when you're not a star, you're a journeyman, and so you bounce around to different strength coaches and different programs, or maybe they were about to peak, or this is a team that they go to the playoffs, they go to the Super Bowl, so they focus on peaking later, where some strength coaches or guys come in late and they may peak too early. Can you just touch on like phasing, what that is, what it looks like, and like when is the right times to peak, and just kind of explain to our audience what those things look like? Because I would love for a young man, a parent, or another coach to listen to this and be able to take value and pull out their notepad and really learn how to be a better overall strength coach, or just a person who cares about their health or their kids' health. So just share some of your best practices.
Yeah, everyone wants to be at that top level and maximize their potential. And the reality of it is your body can't sustain that 52 weeks a year. It's just not possible, right? Injury awaits on the other side, or overtraining. And, you have to, again, meet that athlete or meet that client where they're at. And then we have to talk about goals. We have to talk about things that are coming up along the way. And again, like, great example. I worked with, the football team. We started beginning of this year in January, and I have been working with them. I have a lift with them today, and I'll have a lift with them on Friday, and this is leading into the state championship or the very last week of the football season. So we have maxed out the number of lifts that we could possibly have in a calendar year for a football team. All right. But there are points and times where we have to look at, this is where we have to crank it up and this is where we have to back down. And we have to know what these like key marks on the calendar are. And it might be something as simple as, okay, we're going to put in this block of training for the first 12 weeks of the off season because there's really nothing going on. It's winter, still school. But I know our top 10 guys are going to this big showcase or this big 7-on-7 or this big camp. So let's tie that into our programming and let's get these guys amped up and ready to go. This may not be their absolute best and peaked out, but they're going to be in a lot better place than what they were 12 weeks prior, right? Their body's going to feel better. They're going to be able to perform. They're not as sore. They're recovering a little bit better. And then, that may reset into maybe, a break or something like that where I may not see the guys spring break or, finals week or something like that. And then now we're looking at, okay, we're getting them back ready for the start of the season. And, from that day back to the start of the season, we're going to re-up that intensity and we're going to hit it hard. And I'm going to tell these guys, look, it's okay to feel sore. It's okay to feel beat up. You may feel steps slow. You may not feel like you have that extra pop. But my goal is at this point in time, we are going to get you feeling right. And when we step on that field game one, now you're going to feel why we put in all that work. And
wait till these guys hit 50 years old and they realize what real soreness is like on a daily basis. Chris, you're getting a little bit older.
I'm saying I'm starting to
you're getting
feel
there.
it. Me and AB were talking about it. It was like I was doing like heavy loaded like lunges.
Yeah.
And it almost gave me. I got to put the hundreds. I'm doing like a reverse lunge, 100-pound dumbbell on each leg. And I was really just trying to get low and. My turf toe started bugging me. I was like, I'm gonna do all.
You just started waking up with phantom pain.
Finally,
what happened there?
But let's get a little spicy, a little controversial, nothing too crazy. So, as a strength coach, you've trained a plethora of different programs in the same sport, and you've had a lot of winning programs. And I'm assuming you probably dealt with some that lose as well. So, when a team shows up with the same strength and conditioning, expertise, same speed. From a culture, mentality, mindset, tradition-based standpoint, what is the difference between the programs that have access to someone like you and your team and suck versus they have access to you and your team and they win and go get a championship? What are the differences? What are the differences in those programs or organizations?
Yeah, culture is everything, and I think leadership is a big factor. Leadership not only from me or one of my coworkers, from leading a workout or leading that segment of their training. It could be leadership from their football staff. It could be leadership from their teammates. That all plays a huge factor. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of very good teams. And over the years, as I've grown through this, is realizing that fostering and harboring the understanding of how to be a leader is a big part of my job. Aaron and I talked about this last year. We lost in the semifinals, and we were talking about getting a leadership council going, or having something like. And I'm not sure if you had this before, but you talked about the Monogram Club. I was talking with one of our athletes here about it, and and Coach Asante started doing more of that. And again, I don't know how much he did with that last year because I was still kind of getting acclimated with the program, but it's a culmination of everything. And I think that's a big factor from year to year, from team to team, from program to program. Like the difference between high schools is how do we harbor and foster that? And, it's something I'm trying to carry over into the Ethos facility and share with my coworkers, because I believe that as a company, Ethos, we do very well on the team front. And trying to make it more of just, hey, come in, do your session, see you later, see you next week. We'll get you faster, we'll get you stronger, but understanding how to build leaders out of these groups. One of the teams I had a couple years ago was Mercy Lacrosse, and they had a couple hammers as seniors that were just, they weren't your best athlete, but they were magnetic, and the girls followed them, and they had their best season in school history. They made the state semifinals with not what would be your best group of athletes, but what came from that was a great culture, and they worked their rear ends off with me every single day. You saw that leadership manifest and grow every single day, and that's one small example. I see that with our guys this year in this season. I feel like that leadership is growing and it's blooming as the season goes on, and it's a really cool thing to see because you just love seeing that as a coach. Seeing these young men and women take the things we're telling them, taking the tools from us and actually using them. And it's like, finally the light bulb moment's there. And, you just know that it's setting them up for success down the road.
Just seeing the shared suffering in the weight room, and that's the best way I can describe it. As fun as we try to make it, it's not tough. You can't run from the weight room. The weight room doesn't lie. I think what I love about us having an established strength program with a strong culture, with the right messaging, saying the same things that our coaches are saying, it adds such a sense of pride for our kids. And it also lets them know I've already put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
I worked my rear end off in the weight room during my speed session with Coach George, maybe when we split them up and things like that. I think it gives them confidence in the work that they're about to put in their actual sport. Because we talk about strength and conditioning being, aside from your faith and your family and other things, that's your foundation that you're building your athletic house on, if you will.
Yes.
And like here at Catholic Central, we're going to make sure we put 10 different layers of base down. We're going to then build upon that. Then we start to build the building blocks of our athletic excellence or our strength excellence. So that's what I've noticed with you guys. And I feel like you take a lot of that from the name Ethos itself. So if you can, explain to me what the vision and the idea of Ethos Performance is.
Yeah. So just to put it out there, ethos is the characteristics of a culture. And, my boss, Dan, he came up with it. He saw it somewhere and he's just like, man, that is a great, great thing. So he's like, I'm going to name the business after this. And it's something that we're trying to manifest. And, it's the culture that we have, not only with our staff, but it's our staff in relation with our clients. It's our staff in relation with our parents. It's our staff and how we tie our families into the gym culture. I mean, my kids are there all the time. We get together, and Dan tries to put together, days where we can get the families together at the gym and just hang out and enjoy each other's, because Dan also understands how much time he demands from us. And, the strength and conditioning world can sometimes be a thankless job. I don't see it that way all the time. But, early on in my marriage, I told my wife, I'm going into this with the mindset knowing I'll never be paid for hours the amount of hours I'm going to be put in. There's going to be times where I just have to suck it up and give a little extra, because that little extra is going to manifest and yield a result that is going to pay you back tenfold. And it's happened every single time in the last 10 years. It happens every single time. And, she's starting to see the vision a little bit, and she's backed off on me a little bit, because she also knows too, anything I put into that, I'm going to put back into her tenfold, and that's a big thing. But,
that's important for everybody else out there to hear. As busy as you are, you understand that you got to pour twice as much, 3 times as much back into your wife.
Yep.
And then everything else trickles down to the rest of your family. I love that.
Absolutely correct.
I love that.
But then from there, it's the ethos experience. It's the culture we build. And that's something I have taken a lot of, calculated effort into making sure I'm doing it here and carrying that over here, knowing that the weight room for all these student athletes, whether if it is, a football captain or a wrestling state champion, to a kid who's just coming in and asking me if he can use the weight room, I want these kids to feel that they're welcome in here. And I want them to know that they can come to me for questions. And if it's something I can't answer, I'm going to put them in a direction that they can get that question answered. And, you can't do that by being closed off. You got to be open. You got to be welcome. You got to be, I got to not be so scary. I've been told I've been scary at times by some athletes.
I don't see that at all. Maybe a couple of times when you've had to tell them to quiet down a little bit or focus in the weight room, but
But you know,
It could be the cauliflower ear, the bald head, maybe.
it's the bald head,
beard.
I think.
That's what I suffer the same curse. Chris just cuts his on purpose. Like, don't side eye me when I make comments like that about hair.
All right,
I saw you.
It's a nice head of hair.
Let's really get after it. I mean, one of the things that brings such a wealth of wisdom and knowledge from you is, you know, all the best practices, you know, as far as progressing the body. So can you explain to our audience, I mean, and to us as well, some of the best ways to like load your legs? So you always hear there's this new thing on social media where people are kind of, you know, advancing and learning more, and it's like the only way to grow your quads or to get stronger isn't just squats. I mean, you've had a couple conversations about that. So maybe just run through like pros, cons. But well, first answer: can a person still grow their legs, quads, and get stronger and be a good athlete without doing barbell squats?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you got to follow the principles of progressive overload, right?
Always,
So
always.
that's going to be a priority, and mechanical tension. So there has to be some kind of stimulus. There has to be some kind of stress to the muscle group that we're training. So when you combine those two, that's where you start to see those advancements. Now, you know, you got someone who loves the barbell squat, and it's something they're very good at. You know, by all means, let's do it. But that's not the only way. And there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And as long as you follow those two principles, you can get results. Maybe some yield better results than others based on, you know, the ability to be able to load. But nonetheless, as long as we can progressively grow and overload, you're going to see those results. So I'm a big believer in isolateral movements.
Absolutely.
I think across the board, it's universal for every athlete. You know, the swimmers we have here, I have doing Bulgarian split squats. I spend a lot of time doing Bulgarian split squats with, this just happens to be I'd probably say my favorite lower body exercise is crazy as that may seem. There are some people who are probably listening to this thinking, man, this guy's a lunatic if he loves
Good.
Bulgarians.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, it's not a tension. I mean, like they really load. I always tell people Bulgarian split squats and reverse lunges, for me as a defensive lineman, really help with like get off.
Yep.
I could feel it because, you know, like shin angle, you talk about a triple extension, like it's a very athletic loaded position.
Yeah, your flexibility too in those two movements.
Yeah.
You have to think of too, in the position that you are starting from and the position you're doing that movement from, you're never, I mean, and again, bilateral movements are great for force production, but you're never really jumping off 2 feet at any given time, right? There's points in time for these things to be implemented because it's necessary for force production. It's also necessary for that central nervous system stimulation that we need to load that body. But you know, when you look at a defensive lineman getting off the line, like I think about Brandon Graham. I watch him. I remember when I was first getting started off, he was training with us, and just watching his angles when he get off the ball, I'm like, you have to put them in that position to a degree. And the only way you can do that is you load one leg at a time. And that makes it so that way your body is getting as strong as it possibly can. You're never going to have total symmetry, but you're trying to narrow that gap of asymmetry as much as possible. But it's also a great way to, you know, if athletes have injuries, if they have a back injury, if they have, you know, a shoulder injury. Like I'm working with a kid right now at here where he's got a broken hand. Can't come in and hold weights right now. He's not cleared to hold weights. So hold his good arm. We load Bulgarian split squat wise. We get creative with some of the things that we're doing. And there you go. I love sled work. I think sled work is a great tool.
That's why you fit so well here. New school mixed with a little bit of old school.
Yep. And you know,
it's like 4 times. Like I warm up with 10 sleds, friends.
You had the old wooden ones back in the day. We used to get after them. That Coach English built, if you remember.
Yep. It's so funny how you get older and like you realize, like when I hit college, you realize how much of a joke that thing was. Like in high school, it was like 2 of you guys.
This is the toughest thing. Got nails digging into your hands, splinters.
And then like, you know, you become a grown man and like you put I used to like 100 yards for conditioning afterwards, like mindset, where I was like freaking like, all right, 10-yard drive, all right, left hand stance, 10-yard drive, and that would be like my conditioning. Obviously,
I bet you every time you see a wooden sled, you put hands on it though, just like I do.
Oh, no,
every single time, you like test it out. I could probably still move this.
We gotta get you over to the gym. We got 3 of them bad boys
really?
at the gym.
Oh yeah,
big boys.
So something, because me and you talked about this, man. I want you to really just educate the audience, man. The belt squat. So I first got introduced to whatever you call it, the belt squat. whether you call it rhino squat, whatever, was when I was playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, and our strength coach, whatever the primary lift was, there would be like 2 to 3 variations based upon like, whether you were hurt, whether you were an older guy. And so a lot of the vets, so it was like guys like 5 years higher, he would have them do belt squat, or guys that had back problems or things of that sort. So can you touch on that? Like, and also, why can you do so much more weight when you do belt squat?
Yeah.
But like when I started doing belt squats, I felt a lot more explosive. Just being super. And I'm a guy like, I've always loved freaking barbell squat. And I've loved safety bar. I've always loved it. But once I got older, it was something about like 25. It was like, dude, like, the best way to advance my career while still getting stronger, still maintaining force, was belt squat. And you and I had discussed it. So just talking to people about, and I still feel like quads still grow from it. Like, glutes still grow from it. Hips get a lot stronger from it. Just educate the culture on belt squats.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually something we do a lot too. Here at the school we have, I think they're really cool. They're great because they're easy to move, and they don't have a huge floor, like a footprint on the floor. We use those Sorinex ones. We have some Kaiser belt squats, then the old school like West Side barbell belt squats too. We've used those in the past, and we take a similar tactic. With some of our NHL pros, we just don't load their spine. They're in their late 20s, early 30s, and we're weighing risk and reward at this point. Is it worth it getting them under a bar, or can we still load them appropriately on that belt squat and get a comparable result? So why would we risk? So I think it's a great tool, with a machine. And again, everything hits something a little bit differently, right? A front squat compared to a back squat, they're both squats. They both load the spine. They target a little bit differently. We have these kabuki bars here where they have like the safety squat bars.
Yours are very nice too. I've never seen the ones where it can it goes goblet, it goes
front. It's a newer
really cool.
thing.
I've never seen that before.
We ordered them probably about 6 months before we got them ordered here, and we like them because of that. And they sit a little bit nicer on the chest. They have like a curved pad instead of like the old yoke bars that come straight out.
That's what I have.
But it gives us a little bit of versatility in what we can do in terms of exercise selection. But as far as that goes, again, I talk about meeting people where they're at all the time. How if all three of us were in a training facility together and we're all doing on paper the same phase, we're all on the same team, but we all have different ages, different needs, different things, different demands that we have to have done. How can we take that base, that foundation of that workout program, and then make it so that way you can execute, I can execute, you can execute in that same manner and get the results we need out of it, right? And that's what it's all about. So with like a belt squat, that's a great, it's just a tool, right? It's another tool that we can put in our arsenal. It gives us the ability to be able to do something a little bit differently, load the same way we could load a back squat, just get it super, super heavy and go. To answer your other question about like why you can load it more, it's one of those deals where it's a machine. Down to the root, it's the machine. So sometimes there's going to be variability in how much the weight that we are physically loading is on there versus the lever that we're lifting against. So that's always a factor. Another big factor with that is you're taking the spine out of the equation. We're not stacking that spine. We're not loading that spine. So where maybe on a back squat, you have that bar on your back, or a front squat, you have that bar loaded in front. That spine is a big factor for you completing that lift. Where if you get a little bit more forward, on that squat, and it may take a little bit of that out of the equation, you may be able to load it up a little bit more because it's less that your body has to like have tuned in. It's kind of like a leg press, right? Yeah. I mean, I think a belt squat is a superior movement to a leg press,
100%.
But it's kind of that same concept where you're taking some elements out of the equation. So there's pros and cons to everything, right?
I remember talking to AB about that, and obviously your professional opinion as well. I remember being like a 750 pound squatter any day of the week. Then I got to a point, well, it's probably like 3 years ago, where it's like, as soon as I would hit like 315, 405, it was like, it became like a back issue.
Mhm.
And it was like, I'm a guy since 21. I mean, chiro 2-3 times a week, massages 2-3 times a week,
Cupping, needling.
yoga. You know, like we're doing the yoga, we're doing the T-spine rotations, like all that stuff. But after just years of getting beat up, and it was 1 year in particular where I played in like 3 leagues, and that was the year that
No
really,
break.
Yeah, that was the year that really
Yeah.
kind of like changed my body because COVID had hit. I had an ankle injury. I was with the Bengals. Then went to the spring league, left spring league, then got re-signed back to the league with the Chargers. Then ended up going to the USFL. So it was like nonstop ball. And after that, it was like still lifting, still training. I got to a point where it was like, as soon as I would get to like 315, it became like, it's like, I mean, I would talk to my strength coach, and he's like, dude, like you've been.
It's just wear and tear.
Yeah, dude,
it's nothing you can really do to prevent it. It's just you gotta. Here's what I've noticed, and I like to use this now that I'm 50. I can like teeter on that line where I can be like, oh, now that I'm a little bit older, and then I still try to play like the young card too, because I'll go in there with the mentality that I'm going to go through an old college football workout. I want to load the bar up. If I don't have a mark on my shoulders from squatting with no pad, because like you remember, you were here when like we didn't allow the Manta pad. Remember we did the snap-on blue Manta
P-pad?
Yeah, we won't call it. We can't call it. We can't call it what we used to call it in the weight room.
Dun, dun,
Yeah, exactly. Allegedly, we called it that.
Allegedly.
But even we would dog guys out for squatting with towels on there, which I thought was a terrible idea because it didn't keep the bar solid on your shoulders. But then now that I look back in the day, you were kind of judged by how much weight you could deadlift with terrible form most of the time, and how much weight you could put on your shoulders. Even on the bench press, guys arching their backs up off the bench, their butts coming off
super wide. But when you play football, you're in here, but
there's
going this
exactly,
way,
and they're going down half an inch. You know what I mean? Or like you said, the leg press guys.
Yep.
I love seeing videos of leg press guys with 800 pounds on there going like this,
Yeah.
just barely pressing it at all.
Just waiting for that knee to go the other way.
Exactly, and
Some
I'm
of
just
those
like,
angles are so weird. There's some I can't even like fit in.
But that's the touch on the belt squat though. For me, once I realized my back was starting to go like L4, L5, spinal stenosis, I couldn't put anything on my shoulders anymore. So sumo squats, goblet squats, things. And then we got the belt squat machine.
Yep.
I felt like I was able to get that old school leg work in because
Yep.
and just by the way that ours looks from Sorinex, I mean, they're tough looking pieces of equipment, small footprint. You load that thing up, you put the belt on, and then it's just man versus machine.
Yep.
So that's the reason I love the belt squat so much, and I feel like I can still put good weight on. I can still be a meathead and throw, some plates on so the kids think I'm cool.
Yep.
I don't care how strong I get. I just want the kids to think I'm strong still.
Yep.
But we touch
the presence, right?
That's it. Like you have to play. It's like being a pro wrestler sometimes. It's a little bit of a gimmick.
Yep.
Walking contradiction. But we talk so much about, and I know you know everything about the strength and wellness side when it comes to the physical part of it. But the three of us know, and everybody in this room knows, it's not just that. Yep. You can go work out, but if you don't have the right mentality to attack that workout, almost as if it's a game, if you don't have the right mentality when you walk into the gym, when you wake up in the morning, you have a young family. You're constantly bringing your kids to events, which I love. I'm the same with mine. I know Chris is going to be the same when he starts popping some kids out, which I'm hoping is sooner than later. That's another segment of the show we always tell Chris. We like give Chris that little, tell him, Sean. We give him that little nudge. We give him that little nudge. But, just in the mentality of your own life, you're at a faith-based school now. Now, granted, I know in Ethos, you guys have a lot of faith.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be in your first true private school setting, how has that helped you on your faith journey? Because I know you're able to celebrate it a little bit more openly here. So how has that helped you being part of this Catholic Central family? Even though you're under the Ethos umbrella, you're able to now celebrate your faith here.
Yeah, I think that when I tell people about my experience here, that is typically the first thing I talk about is it's apparent, right? And it's not just the things you see on the wall or you see crosses on the back of someone's shirt or see someone holding the rosary, but it's lived through action here. You see it trickle down from, administration to teachers into the students and back up. It's this fluid movement back up and down. And I was just like, wow, this is a breath of fresh air. And my wife and I talk about these things. We're not Catholic. We go to a Lutheran church, but when kids are being told every day they matter, they have a purpose, their purpose for being here is greater than themselves, which I think that's a huge issue in our country, is that we have a lot of self-idolatry. And I see kids in the hallway, with service hours or staying after school, and it like breathes this breath of life back into you that is just a breath of fresh air. It's so nice. And again, you get it in pockets with other programs and with certain people and people you get comfortable with, that but still it's like kind of towing the line a little bit, with clients, and like, okay, are they cool with this? Are they not cool with this? Because you want to be outspoken about it, but I also understand too, this is a transaction with some people and they're paying me and I have to respect them. But knowing that this is it's out in the open, I can just freely speak about things like this, or just, mention Jesus, or, pray about something. And it really adds to the dynamic of the success here, and the success I feel like I'm having here, because I feel a lot more free about it. And, the fact that, when you look across the board at people who are successful, there are people who can candidly speak truth, whether if it's secular or if it's religious. But the speaking truth is a huge factor to success, and there is no greater truth than Christ. And being around here all the time, it's flowing through these halls. And I've heard kids, just for as many great conversations or the pats on the back that, students have had here. I've heard it on the other side too, where it's like, hey, you got to get it together. And, you're not living out your life the right way. You're not being a live it guy right now. You're forgetting these certain things, and seeing that change someone too, and take that to heart is a big factor as well.
We've been pretty lucky. I think every single guest that we brought on has been on their own faith journey in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's one thing that Chris and I love about this the most, because the two of us are still on our own faith journey. Me as a husband, a father, Chris as a young man who's now working in the school that he graduated from. Like it's been to come here and to be able to live the word and live that mission, and then help hire within the mission too. That's why you guys are such a good fit. I knew Dan better than I knew you and Zach. I had never met you and Zach before.
Yeah.
Well, technically, let's dive into this a little bit. I did meet Corbin. Corbin talked about coaching, wrestling, and past history, and his relationship with Tony Greathouse. Here's a fun fact. Corbin was on the Brighton High School wrestling staff that beat us in our assembly match, and then proceeded to take a picture around our state champs logo after they beat us in front of the whole school in the assembly match. Corbin was on that staff, and yes, later on that year they went on to win the state championship. So, when you viewed, because you came from Holt,
yep,
where you played against us in football,
yep,
you probably felt a certain type of way about CC, before that and after that to an extent. You've wrestled against some of our guys in your high school career, and then you go coach at one of our big rivals, and then you come here and beat CC in one of the biggest wrestling events that there is. Compare how you felt on that day about CC and to how you feel about CC now, and don't lie and be honest.
No, it's totally total truth coming out here. Is I told Coach Hancock this when I met him. Like the first day I was here, I got to meet him, and like he knew who I was, obviously. But I said, man, I tell you what, it sure is nice not having to be on the other side of that hat from you guys. I am a competitor at heart, and I want to win, right? And I want to win. I want to do everything that I possibly can, in my belief system to get myself to the point to win. So, knowing that public school comes in here, and for the most part, it was a mostly homegrown team. We did have a couple kids from outside of the school district. Luke Reddy,
allegedly,
came up from Florida, but to be fair, his dad was a Brighton grad, to my knowledge. So we counted him as a homegrown.
It just
kid.
so happened he was pretty good too.
He was really good. So like to do that, it was a big deal, because every time I have ever competed against this school, whether if it was a football game, it was a tight game, back and forth, and then you guys came out on top and ended our season. Against CC wrestlers, I've split 1-1. Lost to a guy, beat a guy, and
who'd you lose to?
Stephen Gatt, my sophomore year.
Good battle.
So it was right here. Actually, it was at the CC invite.
I was on the team that year.
Were you?
Oh yeah.
That was actually the very first year that this school had opened. So that was my sophomore year. It was the first year that you guys had classes here in this school. And I remember it was just a spectacle. Everyone was like, wow, what a facility.
It was a spectacle for us too. I don't know if you ever saw the Redford building.
Yeah.
Trust me, when we moved out here, it was a spectacle for us
Our
too.
opinion for going, we used to hate going to Redford because it was such a small gym. And then that next year it was here, and we're like, wow, okay, now it's actually a nice place to compete. And then coaching against you guys. I mean, I've always had a tremendous, and a lot of it's from the wrestling world. That's where most of my experience is. But always had a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Hancock, just because of his intensity, but also his coaching was so top level. And these kids are getting college level coaching, and it still happens today. They're training like a college team, how they organize and train, how they implement lifting, and it makes it really hard to compete against. So when you get a chance to beat a team that is doing everything at the top level, it's refreshing, and it's knowing like, hey, we're doing something right. All right, we're on the right path. And then for the next year to come in and have you guys spank us in front of our home crowd. I watched one of our guys get mat returned by Cam Amin like 8 times, and I'm like, oh man, this is not the same.
It definitely lit the fire a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because I think the following year, I think you guys might have scored -2 points against us in the 2 duels. Was that following year or the year after that?
I don't remember.
You weren't on the staff.
I was off the staff.
Of course,
year.
that must have been why.
No, definitely not.
Because you weren't on the staff anymore.
We saw the writing on the wall after that. You guys had a young team, and very similar to the team we have right now. Young team last year, got better throughout the year, and we're just like, man, these guys are going to be tough for a long time. But finally getting here and having a chance, it's like when you look from the outside in and you see a place like this having success, and you see it happen on an institutional level, people from the outside who are like, what are they doing over there that is different? What are they doing that is not what we're doing here? And what it just boils down to is it's not anything different than what any other place is doing. And I think it ultimately comes down to is faith is put first, right? And that flows through the leadership down to the kids, and then that faith manifests leadership, and then that just comes out of these kids. And yes, we have great athletes here. There are great athletes that come here, and sometimes a thoroughbred is a thoroughbred and a plow horse is a plow horse, and sometimes you can't do anything about that. But when I see it on a comparable level, you're just like, okay, this is the secret sauce. And I can tell you right now, for people who get on CC for all the, oh, they do this, they do that. It's like, look, I just tell people there is no school that is under more scrutiny than this school right here. You're under a magnifying glass all the time. And, you have to do things right, and you have to be live it guys. And I think that it comes from those 2 things first, that faith-based leadership that come together, and it goes down from the top all the way down and back up to the top.
Chris, I know you love the weight room like I do, and it's a place for you to really more or less help on your mental toughness. Because we talk about like our dopamine levels. Like for me here at CC, as soon as I hit the door, I'm just sky high the whole day. I get into my workout usually after school. If I work out here, it's great. I'm still carrying some of that dopamine. But as soon as I get home to where I need that energy level to ramp up again for my family, I always have that little bit of crash. For you, how has the weight room helped keep you not necessarily on the straight and narrow, but really on the straight and narrow mentally? Because I know you go through your own trials and tribulations throughout your own career, but how has that been kind of a safe haven for you?
I always tell people I love the weight room for the same reason why I love the stock and crypto market. It's a place where there's no bias. I get rewarded for my effort. I get rewarded for my output. I get rewarded for my knowledge. That 45-pound plate doesn't care if you're short, doesn't care if you're tall, doesn't care if you're black, doesn't care if you're white, doesn't care if you're rich, doesn't care if you're poor, doesn't care if you went to OCC or you went to Harvard. You go in there, right? You do the right things, right? You're the right type of person. You show up the right way. You take your rest times. You have good form. You will reap your reward. We always talk about Galatians 6:9, right? Don't get weary in doing well, because in due season, you will reap your reward if you faint not. Heavy on the in due season. That's why I love phases, right? Because the weight room speaks to the phases of life. And we have times where we peak. But guess what? Right after we peak, back to phase 1.
The work starts over
Back
again.
to phase 2. So, it's like that constant reminder of life, because no matter how much stronger you get, right? And as soon as you hit another PR, the next week you realize you might not hit it again, right? But then you go back into that 4 to 6, 8, 12-week training phase, whatever your coach has you doing, and you realize you get stronger, but you don't always see those wins throughout the process. But at the end, you get the reward. And so I'm just always reminding people, like, don't get tired of the process, man. Don't get tired of studying. Don't get tired of being the right type of person. Don't get tired of lifting. Don't get tired of serving, because I promise you, and the big man upstairs promise you, that you will reap your reward if you faint not. And the weight room has always been a place where, I've lived in a lot of places, but the weight room, whether it was in Africa, whether it was in Dubai, whether it was in Detroit, whether it was in Novi, the weight room felt the same, right? There's no bias there, man. It's all love, and you get in what you put in. And so it'll always be a place where, I have a weight room at the crib. I have I have gym memberships.
I know you have a weight room at the crib. I see certain pieces, maybe the occasional chain that
I was blessed, I
during COVID, we had keys to the school. What do you want us to do? Not use the equipment?
You know what I'm saying? And I was very blessed and very
we might have
fortunate.
snuck up a couple times.
Oh, no, of course. And so, and it's just one of those places where it makes you realize what life's really about, and that if you have faith and if you keep doing the right things, that, good things happen to good people. It may not be the good that you thought it would be, right? Sometimes, I worked hard. That may not necessarily coincide with you going D1, right? It may not coincide with you going to the league. It may not, coincide with you signing that deal or that contract or whatever. But the good that the Lord has intended for your life and your past, it gives you what you need, right? You might not get that big chest or that big quads. We always make jokes, right? I've always been the strongest. I was the strongest person here senior year. Hold the strength records at Ferris. I was always a top 3, if not number 1 strongest person on every sports team. But it was like my calves would never grow. So it was like I'd be squatting 750. Like I went through all the phases we all did. I did the ankle wakes. I did the 100 reps a day. I did the pauses. But, so the reward that I wanted, I never got. But guess what? Whenever I would have a traumatic injury, there's been 2 times where a strength coach or a trainer would say, you could have tore your ACL, but because of how strong your quads were, it just shot down your ankle. I've heard that twice. It was like, the way you got hit, if it wasn't for how big your quads were, how strong they were, that would have been an ACL, MCL, or a patella. But because of the way it hit it, it just kind of shot down and sent so much force to your ankle that it caused a sprain or something of that sort. And so you get the reward that God wants for you, right? And so that's one of those things, man. I love the weight room. I always tell people, I haven't went longer than 3 days without lifting probably since I was 16 years old.
Can't do it.
I've taken the Kobe Bryant approach. During Kobe's career, in his book, he tells you he never took a vacation because he couldn't afford to go on the gym. And that's how serious you have to be, because it all comes under repetition, man. So,
but we're always very resourceful. I know if you go somewhere on a vacation or
somewhere,
you'll find somewhere.
Gym.
Yeah, you'll find
1,000%.
somewhere to check. When I was in sales, I'd lift phone books in the hotel room before I could afford staying in a hotel with a weight room, because obviously I was a little new in the game. But Chris, I'll tell you this, the weight room changed your life, and I can't say it saved your life, but it gave you a whole different style of confidence.
Oh, yeah.
You worked hard here. Coach Monarch put you through some good workouts, but when you really committed to it at Ferris, I saw your confidence change. Your body obviously changed, but you just changed as a person because it helped you grow in so many different ways. And that's why I'm so excited to have you guys on board. A big thing that we talk about here is trying to find balance. And, Chris getting torn in a lot of different directions now, very energetic in the school. He's helping out with development. He helps me in athletics. He helps the kids out with a couple different clubs and things that he started, the Build a Better Business Club. He helps run our base club and things like that. So for him, not having a family at home, it might be a little bit easier to find balance. But for the two of us, and you especially, what time do you get to work in the morning?
I usually leave the house at 5:30, work out.
Usually my response to someone getting up that early is like, that's a real time in the morning. I'm not a big morning person, but 5:30 in the morning.
5:30. I roll, I do jiu-jitsu, or I lift, and then I'm starting work at 8, and then I'm here till 6:30, 6 sometimes.
So we talk about that dopamine level. I mean, you really don't have a chance to crash at all until you're done training here. It's nonstop intensity all day, whether it's you rolling, doing jujitsu or your own workout, till you end up fire breathing your final workout here at school, which could be at what, 7:30?
Yeah,
right around there.
You know, some like 6 to 7 some nights. Yeah, it just depends.
Get home
till
about
the job's done.
7:30. I mean, traditionally you get home at what time? About 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I'd say 7:30. You know,
I mean,
on average.
And then you've got how much time with your kids? They probably go to bed relatively early. So how do you find, like you said, you start up top with your wife, whatever you're going to pour in here or to your job at Ethos, you're going to pour in tenfold to her. How do you find the time and energy to do that and make sure you're giving enough time to your 3 kids?
Honestly, it sounds cliche, but it's just the mindset behind it.
That's what everybody said. Anybody who's been successful at it.
You got to tell yourself that this is what I'm doing and this is the process and there's no other way around it. And you can go about it one or two ways because it's going to get done either way. You can go about it whining, crying, you know, being a mope about it, or you attack it head on and charge it like a rhino, right? And
well played, Corbin.
And, get the job done, right? And at the end result, you feel better about it. And you know, in the instance of maybe, you know, typically like my routine is I come home, kids rampage me for the first 15 minutes. They're running through the house. Usually Francis is getting some dinner on the table, and I'm getting stuff ready for bed, bath. We'll read, and anything I can do to put into my kids and put as much time. And we let our kids stay up a little bit. You know, my oldest son is the only one old enough to be in school, but we homeschool him a little bit. So there's some flexibility with bedtimes and things like that.
Quick shout out to my man Trash Can, CC legend already.
Yep. Yeah, he loves coming here. He talks about every single time we drive by here. We got to drive by the jet though. When we pull in, that's priority. And now his little brother is now demanding the same.
Yeah, his little brother is now demanding golf cart rides like your other 2 now. So which is the best. It's for me too. And I watch you a lot. You know what I mean? And I watch Chris a lot too. And most of me watching Chris is out of envy because he gets to go do all this awesome stuff, like not dragging kids around. So I make sure I drag Chris in as like a stepfather to my kids and force him to go to as much stuff as I can get him to go to. But I know he loves. So in watching you balance that, watching Dan balance his family, Kyle got engaged last year, I think. For me, I think the most exciting thing as a leader is to watch the growth of our people. Nothing makes me happier than to watch you have your family up here. I love watching you train our kids. I love knowing that I can trust what's going on in the weight room, whoever is in there, whether it's you, whether it's Zach, whether it's Dan, whether it's some of the student assistants that you've brought in that are finally cutting their chops in the strength and conditioning world. The amount of trust I have in there allows me to watch what you do as a dad. It allows me to watch what Chris does as a young man continuing to grow on his journey. And for me, as a leader, there's nothing better. There's no amount of paperwork I could do, no amount of championships I could win. It's just watching my people or our people be happy and grow in this environment and see them grow as people, as fathers, as husbands. It's just the most rewarding thing. So I just want to tell you how grateful I am for the friendship that we've been able to build. I don't know if there's any other ADs that sends you as many Bane emojis and things like that and graphics of Bane taking the hood off. But I warned you guys when we hired you here. You're going to fall in love quickly with this place. And it's going to be because of the kids. It's going to be because of just what we do in general, but it's the other people that see you. One of the best things I've learned, and it was a guy named Kwame McKinnon who came in a few years ago, did some PD with us. And he talked about he just said, people love to be seen. Chris and I do it all the time with our kids. He had a kid that did some little good deed. Chris pulls him across and hey man, I saw what you did. I appreciate that. And the kid you just saw him light up like a Christmas tree.
Yep.
So that's what I see that you guys do. And you're here more than, our other guys, but that's what I love watching you do. I love watching how happy you are. Like when I don't know you're coming to a game and you're there taking photos, which is another hobby of yours. And I know you love the barbecue and woodwork and all this other stuff. But to see you balance all that and still see the way that your kids love you, the way that they look at you, that's the most rewarding thing for me. Yeah. And I just wanted to, like Chris said earlier, I wanted to give you your flowers on that. This leads us into one of my favorite parts of the House of Hammers where we kind of end it with our hammer time section. And it's a chance for each one of us just to give a good takeaway for the 10 people watching, the 10,000 people listening. I don't care if there's one person that gets this message. As long as it touches somebody's heart and their soul, we want to give one little piece of positive takeaway for everybody here. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you to lead it off. Usually I let the guests go first, but I had to flip it up on you.
Like usually like absorb some of their info and turn it into something.
I've been watching.
Man, I would say learn something new, right? Don't hear something new, right? Don't watch something new. Learn something new. And then, well, what does learning mean? Learning is new information, same situation, different outcome. If it's new information, same situation, same outcome, you have not learned anything new. You've simply been entertained. We're in a society now where we take information and we take knowledge and we enjoy it and we use it as entertainment. We need to take new information and learn it, use it, and apply it. So as always, 'tis the season for execution. 'Tis the season for focusing on getting better. 'Tis the season for becoming more self-aware. 'Tis the season for controlling the controllables. And 'tis the season to donate to the 1928 Club if you want to see amazing, big, beautiful buildings continue to get built, amazing events, right? Hiring fire staff, continue to donate and give back to the place that's always giving back to you, man. Love you guys.
The 1928 plug has slowly become one of my favorite my favorite portions.
Shameless plug.
It's good though. Before he was kind of sly with it. He'd be like, "Oh, have a great day, and don't forget to donate tonight." And now it has its like own section that we just keep building up. So I love it. I love it. But you did hit the nail right on the head. I think one thing that you didn't touch on though is you intake all this information, you apply it, but then you got to share it too. I think it's important that you share that. You pour into others with what you've learned and you've taken in. You pour into others. Corbin, let's hear it. It's a good one. I like putting people on the spot on this one. That's why it's completely unscripted. And we don't give you anything before.
The thing I preach all the time is consistency. It is not flashy, and be a guy that shows up. Be the guy that is always there. You may lack talent. You may lack charisma. You may lack, an intangible that makes someone else great. But the guy who is there all the time is the guy that's going to be called on at the end of the day. And I believe that has taken my experience in this field and through my athletic career is always being the guy to show up. If I'm eventually that guy that's called upon first, that's my another chance to grow. That's my next chance to get better. And I've seen it reincarnate itself time and time and time again. And again, that's eventually what becomes the process. And that's something we talk about a lot here is the process. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the culture we build. And that is built upon a consistent foundation.
I love that. Every time someone acts like they're nervous about answering that, they nail it every single time. So you kept the streak going. I love when you said it's what we do and it's who we are. The takeaway I want for everybody is the work is the work. Like Corbin said, it's not flashy. Like Chris said, you can't escape anything in the weight room. It's not going to lie to you. It doesn't care what you look like, where you come from, who you are. But that's the same work you put in every day to your relationships, to your faith, to your family, to finding that balance. That work is always going to be there. Don't be afraid to do the work. Any advice I could give you, wake up every morning, and I say it every single time on here. Plant your feet just like I know Sean does, gives thanks for having another day, thanks the good Lord for his family. I know Chris does the same. I know Corbin does the same. I know I do the same. Every single day, approach the day with that do the work mentality and just understand it's going to get done one way or another, so attack it with a high level of get to, a high level of intensity, a high level of faith. Believe in yourself. And when all else fails, just keep hammering. On behalf of myself, Aaron Babicz, our glorious co-host, Mr. Christopher Okoye, and another hammer of a guest who gave you the definition of a hammer again, be that person that always shows up, that does the work, that's dependable, that's positive, that pours into others, and that's the definition of a hammer, and that's why we have him on today. Another phenomenal guest at the House of Hammers. Sean, thank you again. Chris, thank you. Corbin, as always, I'll see you in the weight room later on today.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, another great episode. And as always, keep hammering.